Hey everybody, Insane Mike here again for another video for you, the Patreon subscriber. Continuing my series of my 100 favorite films of all time. Let's get straight into it because we still have a crap ton of movies to cover. First one I want to talk about is from 1998, The Big Lebowski, my all-time favorite Coen Brothers movie. I'm a Coen Brothers fan. There's some films that are really hit and miss for me, but this one is hands down my favorite. It's hilarious. It really highlights the Coen Brothers' odd sense of humor, and everybody's just great in it. Next, we're going to jump back in time a bit, back to the 70s, 1971. I love Vincent Price, like most horror fans do. And there's a couple of Vincent Price movies that are in the top 100. This one in particular, kind of more of a psychedelic romp. It's got some really great creepy moments, some funny moments, and I'm talking about The Abominable Dr. Phibes. Like his lair, I love the art design of his lair. It's just incredible. His makeup when his face is off is just awesome. The kills in this are so inventive, using Bible verses as inspiration for the kills, that kind of thing. It's really great flick. Now, a film that's definitely got to make at least in the top 10. If it wasn't for the Romero zombie movies, the original trilogy, this would be my all-time favorite zombie film. It's Dan O'Bannon's 1985 Return of the Living Dead. It's funny, it's creepy, and the first time I ever watched this, it freaked me out because, you can't kill these zombies, you can't stop them. You know, you could chop an arm off, and now that arm and the rest of the zombies coming after you. Now you got two threats. And so that concept really freaked me out. It wasn't until repeat viewings that I really got the comedy that's mixed in with it, too. Again, another one where I really like the art design. I like the idea that it's a bunch of punk rockers. I like that aesthetic a lot. I love how things just seem to be ripped off the pages of, Mad Magazine and EC horror comics. A lot of jokes in the background that are going on, and then some of the art design of the cemetery and stuff just really reminds you of Bernie Wrightson art and whatnot. And of course Linnea Quigley, who I'm a huge fan of, love her dearly. You know, even have had her in several of my films, and this was obviously the big one that put her on the map. With her character of Trash. This movie is a movie that's been highly influential. One I can repeat every line of dialogue from top to bottom, and you could definitely see the influences in my own films with that one. Now, 1982, another great classic from my days of watching USA Up All Night. Nobody does dirty early 80s New York City better than Frank Henenlotter, and this is the epitome of do-it-yourself filmmaking. Basket Case. This movie is awesome. It's got some funny moments. It's good. This is one that that the budget I think really benefits the darkness and grittiness of the film. This was the Something Weird release, which is a great disc for the 20th anniversary. Some great behind the scenes. The commentary tracks, outstanding. I love this disc. Love the movie. Now, I'm extremely biased on this next one. I have to say that it's the greatest comedy of all time, but again, I'm biased because I've mentioned before, and those of you who know me know that my all-time favorite music artist is Weird Al, and so I'd be remiss if I did not include it in my top 100. Again, it's another movie I love very, very much and can repeat every line of dialogue. I remember seeing this movie in the theater. Well, I'll get into that. It's 1989's UHF, written and starring Weird Al, directed by Weird Al's manager, Jay Levy, who plays Gandhi in the Gandhi 2 skit. I remember seeing this movie in the theater. And there wasn't a whole lot of people in the theater. It was a bummer. I just remember laughing my ass off. I didn't care if anyone else was laughing. I had a great time with this movie. I wish it would have been more successful. It was probably the worst summer in history to release a smaller film like this. Because you had one of the Lethal Weapon movies came out, an Indiana Jones movie came out, the first Batman came out. It had an impossible competition and it didn't do very well. And it's gone on to become a cult classic. I just wish it was realized while it was in theaters on how awesome it is. Sticking with comedies, and we've talked about before, I'm a fan of documentaries, but I'm a huge fan of mockumentaries, especially those that go into the detail enough to actually almost make me think, is this real? Is this a real band? Because I remember first time watching this movie and thinking, is this a real band? I think it might be a real band. But obviously it wasn't, because like I'm sitting here watching it and I'm like, wait, that's the guy who plays Lenny from Lenny and Squiggy. That's the guy who, and I'm talking about 1984's This Is Spinal Tap. One of Rob Reiner's first films. Hilarious mockumentary. Ton of amazing comedians in it. Christopher Guest, Harry Shearer, a lot of cameos from people all the way from like Billy Crystal, the Fran Drescher, Paul Schaefer is in the movie. Hilarious, and it's done so well that you almost think that this is a real band. It's done really, really well, and it's a great testimony to like a great satire again of the world of rock and roll. There's a lot of bands out there that love this movie because they share a lot of the experiences that happen within this movie. This disc is great. The special edition here, DVD, has a commentary track with the guys in the band as the guys in the band. They're doing their characters, and they play it straight through the whole commentary track. So that's awesome. Moving on to 1988. I'm also a big fan of Fred Olen Ray. Now, I don't have a whole lot of Fred Olen Ray movies in the top 100. This one just barely kind of squeaks in. This may be like number 100 if I were to put this in any kind of order. I love his movies, and I do watch a lot of them over and over again, mostly with his commentary tracks. He does great commentary tracks. But this is the one, again, another Linnea Quigley film, and that's Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. It's got Michelle Bauer and Linnea Quigley in it, so double the fun. But this one I think is like Fred Olen Ray's, still to this day, his best movie. It's really funny, and I always thought he did a really good job with that one. Now, going to go on to a little man by the name of Steven Spielberg. You may have heard of him. And what Steven Spielberg movie would make my top 100? Well, there might be a couple of them in here, and one of them is a pretty obvious answer. But one that I think is my favorite Steven Spielberg movie is from 1971, Duel. This movie is great. I love simplistic films where it's not a whole lot of characters, not a lot of locations, and this is basically a man in his car being chased and tormented by a semi-truck. And it's a feature film. It lasts an hour and a half, and you have to follow along for the ride. It could be boring, but it's not. It's intense. It's edge of your seat. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is the scene where the semi is pushing the car onto the railroad tracks. Fun fact about that scene is that it wasn't actually, because this was actually originally a TV movie, and then when it got picked up in foreign markets, it played theatrically in foreign countries, but it was too short. So they shot that scene just for the foreign market, and then it was put into the American version that we have today. And it's my favorite scene. Last in this video, I'm going to talk about a film from 1988, a very, very, very independent film. I love this movie, again, for the do-it-yourself attitude of it, and just how this movie was made for next to nothing and actually pulled off a lot of miracles, but not a lot of people are familiar with it. And it's Jim Van Beber's film, Deadbeat at Dawn. This movie is, it's kind of a bummer. It's not a lot of redeemable characters in this movie. Even our lead is kind of a little bit of a scumbag. So it's kind of a bummer. There's like no happy end. There's no happy beginning, no happy middle, no happy end. But it's got some amazing, bloody as hell action sequences that are impressive as hell for the budget that it had. And it's a great movie, but one of the worst, I'm going to say it, man, one of the worst commentary tracks in the history of commentary tracks. I love commentary tracks, and I know I've talked about in the past about doing more videos about commentary tracks. I may save that one for one of those. But that is it for this video. I'm going to try to speed these along, because we still have a crap ton movies if we're going to go through all 100. But thanks again for donating, and we'll see you on the next video.